Hey YouTube, welcome to the channel. My name is Rich. The name of the channel is Rich the Return Rider. Sorry folks, today we are not out for throttle therapy. I'm actually bringing you the first video from my garage. Been working a couple of months here to build what is somewhat of my dream garage. I did a video talking about working on your own motorcycle, especially that Honda Goldwing. And this is part of the journey of me doing that. But that's a whole other video. I'll put a little bit of clips of the garage for anyone that's interested. If there's any questions about it, leave it in the comment sections below. But today what you're looking at, guys, is the big bad M109r. They call it the boss. They call it the bully. They call it the M. They call it the M109. All of those names that are affiliated with this motorcycle. And today it is still in production with very little changes. But this video, folks, and this channel is all about me talking about my journey back into riding motorcycles. And I'm sharing with you guys all the things that I learned on this journey back, the do's and the don'ts, things that I wish I have done differently. And one of them is the purchase of my first motorcycle, getting back into riding. Now, what inspired this video, folks, is I had a guy that came out, was doing some work to my house, saw the Boulevard, kind of fell in love with it, said he rode a R6, someone cut him off, he had an accident, decided to give up the riding. Now I pointed him to my channel on a couple of different channels, inspiring him to do the necessary things if he's considered getting back into riding motorcycles. And he did thought about purchasing something like the M109r. This motorcycle for folks coming from sports bikes is a big clamor. The look of the motorcycle, the power of the motorcycle, we got like 125 horsepower with 118 foot-pounds of torque. It delivers a little different power than the sports bikes with that V-twin performance. But folks, this motorcycle is awesome. But anyway, let's talk about my experiences purchasing this motorcycle and some of the things that I wish I knew before I purchased it, and I'm going to share those things with you. First and foremost, if you're buying this motorcycle new, a lot of this stuff doesn't apply to you. But if you're purchasing a used motorcycle, in my case, I was buying a motorcycle with a little over 30,000 miles on it. I bought it from a dealership, and those dealers seem to know very little about the background of the motorcycle. Motorcycle came with a lot of modifications on it. Again, they didn't know too much about the modifications. All I knew is the motorcycle looked really nice. Motorcycle sounded good. And being a novice rider, getting back into riding after 20 plus years, man, the motorcycle ride that I took with this motorcycle was not spirited enough to reveal some of the faults that was on this motorcycle that I want you guys to be aware of. Now, first of all, let's look at some of the modifications on this motorcycle. Motorcycle came with the, I think they call Spike performance intake here. It also came with what I later discovered was Cobra exhaust on it. Again, the seller didn't, the sales rep didn't know too much about that. And the motorcycle was also lowered by 2 inches. Now that might not sound like a lot, but we'll talk a little bit later about why that is significant. The rear back tire on this motorcycle is one of the appeals of the motorcycle. It came with a 240 stock back tire on a stock motorcycle. Mine came with a 260. Now I know it's really cool looking and so forth, guys, but I wouldn't recommend going no higher than a 250 instead of a 240 wide. It does affect the lean and limit of the motorcycle. So anyway, let's talk about the process that I should have taken in buying a motorcycle, and I want you guys to think about it. You guys or gals to think about it. The first thing is I should have looked up the Blue Book value on the motorcycle. You're buying a used motorcycle, guys, you always want to feel like we're getting a deal here. I purchased the motorcycle for a little under $7,000. This is in the heart of the pandemic. Took a ride out in the morning, loved the color when I saw it on the internet. And it was kind of a sporadic purchase. So my mind was made up that I wanted that motorcycle. I did negotiate. I think they had it for like 7,900 or something, but I did negotiate it down into the sixes. But wasn't a bad price for the motorcycle. I think it was a little under the value, the book value at the time when I looked it up later. So, you know, check out the value of the motorcycle that you're getting, mileage, year, and so forth. But one of the things that I'm going to strongly recommend is if you're buying a motorcycle used with that much mileage on it, buy it from a private seller. First of all, someone that might, hopefully they're the first owner of the motorcycle and they can give you the history of the motorcycle. They can tell you all the modifications that was done to the motorcycle, whether they did it themselves or whether it was professionally done. First of all, you have a background of the motorcycle of someone that knows about the motorcycle. Hopefully, if you're purchasing the motorcycle from a private seller, you purchase it from going to their home and not meeting them in a parking lot somewhere. Folks tend to be most honest if they know you know where they live. The other thing is to test ride the motorcycle. Now, in my case, even though I test rode the motorcycle, I was so afraid of this big 1800cc. I think it's 1783 cc's, but 1800cc motorcycle, that I never rode it as spirited as I should have. I was really timid. I was afraid of the motorcycle. I'm going to be honest. This motorcycle is torquey. It is heavy. It's over 700 pounds. Or 800 pounds of motorcycle. I forgot what the specs are. It's super torquey. So instead of riding the motorcycle like someone that can really test ride the motorcycle to see the condition of the motorcycle, I just wanted to make sure the motorcycle worked. But on the M109r, guys, when this motorcycle came out in 2006, there was a weakness in this motorcycle. And I think it was from second gear, from neutral to second gear. Brandon Picasso, that does a lot of videos on the M109r, have a video out talking about the worst motorcycle he ever owned was the M109r. And that title might have been a little bit misleading, but what he had the experience of is going out, purchasing a motorcycle, meeting the seller with a friend of his, didn't test ride the motorcycle, was riding the motorcycle back home to realize he had second gear failure. If you pull it up on the internet, guys, there's plenty of information out there about this motorcycle slipping out of gear. It's an expensive fix. In some cases, not going into gear. Now, the question is, and I was, again, researching, did Suzuki ever solve that problem? And it looked like after 2010, folks haven't been complaining much about that issue, so hopefully the motorcycle, I know they changed some stuff with the clutches and so forth, but guys, it is a $2,000 to $3,000 repair. The motorcycle engine have to come out. The engine and the transmission is intertwined. They have to disassemble the engine and change some parts or upgrade some parts in there that prevents this motorcycle from having that transmission issue. Now, I haven't experienced that. This is a 2012 Suzuki. Haven't had any issues about that, but it is a concern still on whether I can have it in the future. The other thing in test riding the motorcycle is to feel what the motorcycle feels like. The tires and everything might look good on the motorcycle, but are you going to get used to the handling of that 240, 250, or 260 back tire on the motorcycle? And if you're coming from the world of sports bikes, guys, this motorcycle will not handle like a sports bike. You have, with the Cruiser, a limited lean angle, so you got to be aware of that so you don't low side the motorcycle. It also takes a little bit more effort to maneuver the motorcycle because of the design of the motorcycle. Now, the look of the motorcycle is going to always attract us. As far as I'm concerned, in the world of the Cruisers, this is still the sexiest looking motorcycle that there is. Love it. But, you know, test ride the motorcycle, and if you can't test ride the motorcycle in a way that it should be ridden, bring someone with you that can, someone that have experience in riding. Like I said, I've been away for 20 plus years, so I was a little timid on that test ride to really be able to assess whether the motorcycle, you know, is in good working order. The other thing that I'm going to recommend, getting the motorcycle in 4th or 5th gear, rolling on the throttle and feeling whether the motorcycle clutch is good. If you have someone, or you can roll on the throttle in the 4th or 5th gear and this motorcycle hesitates and it starts to lag before it picks up, you're probably going to need a clutch. Now, I have done the clutch job on this motorcycle, but I've owned the motorcycle for approximately a year before I changed the clutch. It now have probably a little over 40,000 miles on it. I'm happy with that. But the clutch on the motorcycle was about $500 in itself. I could only envision, if I had to take this motorcycle to a dealer to do the clutch, what it was going to cost me. I was even curious about whether the clutch was ever done in it before, or whether it was the original clutch. The dealership might not know that unless someone had records that they presented when they turned the motorcycle in. In this case, they didn't. So again, guys, purchasing from a private seller, hopefully a one owner will probably be best. But yeah, guys, the clutch job will probably going to cost you a little bit. The lowered 2-inch drop on the motorcycle, I took my first class, and I do recommend taking those classes. In a lot of cases, some of them are free here in Florida. Leaning the motorcycle to do the course was challenging. I did the Ride Like a Pro with Jerry Palladino, and he spoke so much about not lowering your motorcycle. I do agree. I tried to get a local shop to raise the motorcycle back up. It's not a real expensive fix, but it is a little bit of a challenging repair if you're going to be doing it yourself. You have to take the back wheel off. You have to take part of the suspension apart. There are 2 bones that can put this motorcycle back to a stock height. And the stock height with 2 inches up gives you a lot more clearance than you would imagine. But anyway, folks, so yeah, that's the other thing. Year plus down the road, when I decided that I was going to change the tires on the motorcycle, the threads on the tire of the motorcycle looked pretty good. But for the first time, after owning the motorcycle for a while, because the only thing I looked at was the condition of the tread wear, was I also realized that I had 2 different brands of tires on the motorcycle. The front had a Shinko, relatively inexpensive tire. Probably not highly recommended for a performance motorcycle like this. I don't know. For folks, I've seen some reviews on folks that like the Shinko. I've seen some reviews on folks that don't think it's an appropriate tire for a performance motorcycle. I don't know. But on the back of it had the Metzler. I'm looking at the front here, but it had the Metzler Ultra Marathon. I did put it back to a stock 240 instead of the 260. The handling of the bike feels like night and day. I did a video called "Does Size Really Matter?" and that is in discussing the difference of the feeling. Get a chance, check that video out, folks. But yeah, 2 different brands of tires on the motorcycle. I don't think that is really recommended by any dealership or anyone that would tell you, hey, when you're changing your tires, make sure you change to the same brand of tires. Your choice of tires is up to you, but I was a little annoyed about that. If I knew about that when I saw it at the dealership, I would have made them change it, or I wouldn't purchase the motorcycle. There's a couple of things that I might have reconsidered on purchasing this motorcycle, or point out to them so they can lower the price. So let's talk a little bit about the modifications on this motorcycle. Now, I believe that a stock motorcycle with you doing the modifications is the best way to go. But I gotta admit, I was attracted to the fact that I had those filters on the motorcycle, that I had an exhaust already on the motorcycle. I thought it looked pretty cool. But first of all, with the filter, the K&N filter pipe spikes here, what you're going to encounter if it starts to rain heavily, after all, these are getting the air in and it's taking it into the engine. On a heavy downpour and these things get saturated, you're going to feel a difference on the performance of the motorcycle. They're actually going to start to sputter because the air-fuel ratio is going to be off on the motorcycle. At some point, I'm going to change them out if I decide to start riding the motorcycle a lot more, especially if I know I'm going to be caught in the rain. We're in Florida. It's been raining like crazy recently. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this video from the garage here. But for the most part, I'm riding the Gold Wing when I'm going distances, or I expect that they could be inclement weather. I'm on the 2019 Honda Gold Wing over there. That's Ruby. My motorcycle that I really cruise on. But yeah, anyway, let's get back to the M109R. The filters, I would have taken a different type of performance filters than these spikes. The other thing is the Cobra exhaust. Now, again, when you're test riding this motorcycle, and again, I bought this in the heart of the pandemic, so I found out later, is you get into higher gears and you start engine braking and the compression hits the computer system, it starts triggering a fuel injection light. It's a red light that comes on. My experience from when that light first came on and I shut the motorcycle off, it seemed to affect the computer to some degree where the motorcycle didn't want to start back. Now, it doesn't do it anymore. Apparently, when the modifications was done on changing out the exhaust, there was a elimination thing there. I think it's called a servo buddy or something that should have been put on the motorcycle to prevent that from the motorcycle from triggering the codes. To me, when that F1 light comes on, that code is affected in a way where it affects the performance of the motorcycle. To me, it's kind of like an O2 sensor that's gone bad, and it affects your air fuel mixture on your car or whatever. But yeah, when I took it back to the dealership after owning it for like 2 months, the prices they were charging me to diagnose it, I didn't think was worth it. I went to a local shop and the guy explained to me what to do, and changing out or putting something called a servo buddy on it kind of helps with that. I think in the earlier models there's a way to eliminate it, but when you ride the motorcycle, get it into a second gear, you don't have to be punishing the bike or anything, but rev the motorcycle out, release the throttle on it, let the engine braking take over, and see if it triggers that that fuel injection light. But yeah, folks, that's about it so far that I can think of. I don't want to make the video longer, but I want this to be something that you guys think about. Purchasing the motorcycle from someone that knows more about the motorcycle than the local dealership, unless you have experience with these motorcycles. Anyway, folks, like I always want to say in my videos, man, prioritize, guys, practicing the safety on the motorcycle, those cone courses and parking lot drills, emergency stopping the motorcycle, braking and swerving. You know, the advanced classes helps a lot with our safety. Take those classes, folks. But yeah, would I buy the M109R again? Absolutely. Oh, another thing to take into consideration, folks, that's a big concern of mine even on the newer motorcycles today. This motorcycle does not have ABS. I think it's important to have ABS on the motorcycle for safety. We have it on most of our vehicles today. Why would we not have it on a motorcycle? So that might have been the one deterrent that would prevent me from buying this motorcycle again. The fact that even on the new 20, 21, 22, 23 motorcycles, the M109Rs, we still don't have ABS. Suzuki, come on now, get with the program here. Safety is a priority. All right, folks. So all the things that I am sharing with you guys, that if you're thinking about buying this motorcycle, you would think about before you purchase it. Rich out, talking about Susie, the M109R, and I am out.